Hi, it's Paul Sackis, Good News Planet. I'm speaking to Todd Woody. Hi, Todd. How are you?
Good. How are you today?
Okay, good. Actually, I received an email from your company, Participant Media, I believe. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. A company who I respect extremely highly. They were behind movies like The Inconvenient Truth, The Prophet, and Cesar Chavez. And actually, I would like to use Cesar Chavez as a good example because Cesar Chavez was a farmer. And Todd is a writer, I believe, for them. Is that so?
I am the environment editor at Take Part, the digital magazine at Participant.
All righty. Okay. And you wrote an article, and this one, you've written many articles. This guy's a good writer and a very smart man. Your pot habit is contributing to the guacamole crisis, and we're going to talk water. Our audience knows we have the show The Water Hour and have lots of relationships in the world of water. Pete Seeger's organization, the Clear Water. We help create the International Day of Water with the United Nations, and we know water is a very, very serious issue. And Todd, you've taken on the perspective of California, and even though California is part of the world, and we need to figure out the water situation. But tell us a little bit about your article, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about all kinds of water talk. Actually, it's on the front page of the New York Times today. Water saving is far from a goal. And in another one, California innovation like water has limits. Okay, so what's going on out there?
Well, sure. Actually, this was an article I edited that was written by one of my writers, Catherine Gammon. The story was based on a study that came out of the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. It's been well known that marijuana cultivation has some huge environmental impacts on the land because of the use of pesticides and the use of water. This study looked at Northern California and Humboldt County, which is sort of the epicenter of pot growing, and found that in 3 of 4 streams studied, the growers are diverting 100% of the water, and in the 4th stream, they're diverting a quarter of the water. And it really highlighted just how much water marijuana cultivation is consuming, in addition to all the other environmental impacts, at a time when California is facing a record-breaking drought.
And Governor Jerry Brown, environmentalist for many years, actually made some decrees here, right, that they're going to consider passing to deal with this problem.
He issued an executive order on April 1st requiring cities and towns to cut their water consumption by 25%. First time in the state's history that we've had mandatory water restrictions.
I didn't look it up whether anybody else has ever done that either, here even in America at all.
Yeah, I'm sure there's been localities that have done it, but this is the first time probably, I believe, a whole entire state has imposed mandatory cutbacks.
And according to the Times today, only 2.8% of cut occurred in February. So a little concern. So, I mean, give us, tell me about your media. I mean, because you guys have, you're on in essence, real concerns of our planet and the way life is being pursued.
Sure. Well, Participant Media was founded in 2004 by Jeff Skoll, who was the first president of eBay, and he founded the company at the time to make socially relevant movies, documentaries, with sort of the belief that a story well told can change the world. As you mentioned, Participants made a number of movies that your listeners, readers probably know: Food Inc., Citizen Four, An Inconvenient Truth. Some years later, they established Take Part as the digital news operation of Participant. And more recently, Participant has acquired and started a TV network called Pivot. But all branches of the company have basically the same mission.
Give us back to your article, which is very well written, and I can't say that your heading is not going to attract people. Your pot habit is contributing to the guacamole. You're hitting on 2 tough areas here.
Well, actually, they're connected because we've covered the drought and the impact on food, and we had previously had a story on how the water crisis, the shortage of water, and the high price of water is causing some farmers in Southern California to stopped growing avocados to fallow their groves. And California supplies a huge amount of avocados to the country. So there's definitely impacts beyond. One of the things we try to do is connect the dots between all these different issues.
Aha. Give us an example of, you have some percentages of, let's learn a little bit how, you need a lot of water to grow some marijuana, I guess, the way that they're growing it. Maybe new inventions will occur with this, as well as hydroponically and all kinds of ways that we can grow, right?
Yeah, I have to say this, the subject of that study, this was all illegal operations. So these are
illegal or legal?
Illegal. So they were setting up on land they probably weren't supposed to be on, using pesticides they're not supposed to use, and diverting water they weren't supposed to divert. Legal operations have to meet various state standards.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't see I saw the word legal, but these. So right now there's a lot of illegal situations on this water that's taking the water and endangering, in essence, are the streams, the salmon, and blah, 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 right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's not good by any means. I guess with the legal or illegal, I guess we're going to have to, with the subject of water, kind of try to figure out how to go about all this, right?
Yes, I think we have to take a hard look at what crops we're growing, what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. For instance, in California, we grow alfalfa in the desert, which consumes a huge amount of water. California, we grow 80% of the world's almonds, but almond trees also are big water users. So I think, as this crisis moves forward, there's going to have to be a sort of a tough look at what we're doing.
We have, with our water initiatives, of which we've done many water shows on the United Nations at the UN Day of Water, and we have a song, Water Not Weapons, by Pete Seeger, created the name for, because I guess until we resolve how we're going to deal with this, like 1% of so on the world drinking water, right? Any thoughts that you have, Todd, that how we can get better at handling water and creating more water?
It's an extremely complex subject because the Byzantine state regulations governing water use and who has water rights. So part of it's basically regulatory. It's for instance, in California, if you put a well in, you can pump as much groundwater as you want. There's no restrictions. So that's obviously something that has to change. Based in California, it's not a supply problem so much as how we use the water. We divert 80% of the water to agriculture. We allow people to pump as much as they want, which is, draining aquifers, which take thousands of years to replenish. So partly it's a way we have to sort of figure out how to use water better. And certainly conservation, there's a lot of waste in the use of water.
So the difficulty of, I guess the Sierras and so on having, 6%, some minor amount of snowfall, right? So the water doesn't.
That's an extremely worrisome situation, since that spring snowmelt basically, supplies, replenishes our reservoirs, fills the streams and all the surface water that's used for agriculture and for cities, which means that we don't have much left in the reservoirs and we have to pump more groundwater.
And there's our concerns also there. I remember Ted Danson teaching me this one, who was involved with the water outreach, around Santa Monica area, about, how the runoffs and pesticides, go into the water and go into the ocean and all these kinds of things. So wherever we do have some fresh water, if we aren't attending to our crops the right way and our land and our lawns and everything else, that water flows, right? It's a moving item.
Yeah, and it's not we pay a lot of attention to agriculture because they are by far the largest users of water. But in California, at least half of urban water use goes to your lawn, so that's certainly an area with potential to have water savings.
And you have, you have the ability to grow those beautiful flowering cactus out there.
Yeah, in the desert. Yeah, but for instance, I live in Berkeley, California, and last summer I had my backyard ripped out and replanted with native plants and drought-resistant plants. So I have, I don't have any grass anymore that needs to be watered.
What kind of plants does that mean?
There's a variety. Native California plants that evolved to exist to not need very much water, but you can also use, say, plants from Australia or just any kind of drought-resistant plant. And then people can also switch to drip irrigation instead of just having sprinklers that pop up and spray water everywhere. The water goes directly to the roots of the plant, which cuts the water use, by a lot.
Mm-hmm. I have a moss backyard here in Manhattan. And it reminded me. I started a nature series on public television. Me and of course a big group, right? But the first year, we started it on Mount Tam in Stetson Beach in your part of the woods. Yeah, with Donald Johansson. He discovered Lucy, an archaeologist, and we went up there. There's really an environmental phenomenal state. I mean, you're such a pretty good-smelling state. It's a gorgeous state to get around because you have all that nice weather out there. I'm jealous every once in a while, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. So, people, forget that I'm in Los Angeles today, and, most of Southern California is basically a desert climate, or Mediterranean climate. So that probably LA Basin naturally could support a couple million people, 400,000 people, depending on your estimates. But, we've got 13 million people living down here.
Yeah. Now, LA, that's an interesting point. That was a big part of this story today in the New York Times as well. Because LA, forgot the name of the municipal group that purchased a lot of the land rights, right, to get the water to go into LA to deal with that many years ago. Yeah,
a century ago. They basically bought Drain Owens Lake to supply the water to Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. So they have the water, but I think everybody's looking at that situation as well. But this is a worldwide. This is part of what I wanted to kind of take the time. First of all, congratulations. You're a great writer. And
thank you.
Working with a great, great company that's, I never think I got to say Cesar Chavez. But we do a show in Silicon Valley for World Peace Day. And our Peace Days involve the environment, too, because if we don't take care of Mother Earth, we'll have a hard time taking care of each other. And there's a Cesar Chavez park downtown San Jose. And he was a real farmer. This really affects the farming community, won't it affect it? How are they going to deal with it?
It's a severe crisis. I mean, the past year there was 0 water allocations from the 2 big water projects in the state. So farmers that's why are having to either drill their own wells, which can cost millions of dollars, or they have to buy water from elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, we got to figure. We all talk about it, and we all say, "But look at that big ocean. What's the deal with that, right? How are we gonna find some renewable energy, some wind power, or something that can salinate? Have you looked into that?"
Yes, I mean the issue with desalinization.
Yes.
Is that it's very expensive and it's a huge consumer of electricity, which makes it very expensive. So there's definitely an environmental cost and huge costs associated with it. However, there is a lot of work being done on technology that would lower those costs. I did a story for the New York Times about a year ago on a company that is basically using solar power for desalinization out in the Central Valley, in the Farm Belt. Basically huge, what looks like would be a solar thermal power plant, but instead of generating electricity, they're using that heat to desalinate water.
Aha. Beautiful. Todd, keep writing these stories and Pivot, keep publishing them and your whatever other outlets. You're always welcome to share any content with our Good News Planet broadcasts because you're doing the kind of work that is very important for everybody to know. Let me ask you 2 last questions, Todd, and thank you very much. And your last name is such an appropriate name to the subject that we're talking about, Woody. Need that water for the wood. What's good news for you, Todd?
I think the good news today is I just published a story I wrote on probably one of the most critically endangered mammals that you've never heard of. It's called the Amargosa vole. It lives out in the Mojave Desert in California. And last year, and it faces pressures from drought, development, climate change. And last year, year before, its population crashed. And scientists said there's an 82% chance that it'll go extinct in 5 years. That caused a grassroots group of scientists and conservationists and ordinary citizens to come together to rescue the vole. They rescued some of them, took them to a captive breeding program, which has been successful, and they're going to start returning them to their habitat. And it looks like this will be one case where extinction was avoided.
Yeah. All right. I'm into it. I love it. Congratulations. I look forward to that. Send me that story. I'd love to post it if you can do that. And the last question, because we're so involved with the International Day of Peace, which is September 21st, which the 19th we'll do our event probably at the Cesar Chavez, and create hopefully a bigger awareness that we should just love each other, love one another right now, as most of the world does. And that's the good point. That's the good news. Most of the world's caring, loving, kind, and don't use violence as their way to communicate. So that's the good news. So what's peace for you, if you don't mind?
What's peace?
Yeah.
Well, the most basic level is absent of violent conflict and people coming together to work out their differences in a rational way. Beautiful.
Todd, Woody, thank you so much. Congratulations on the article and a lot of good work, and we appreciate you taking the time to speak with Good News today.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me on the show, Paul.
All righty, take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.